So, one of the things that I talked about is the NFL. I don't believe that outside of analysts, they believe that fans like ourselves have a holistic view or look at more than the team that they're celebrating. Like, for instance, I think they believe that Shedeur Sanders fans only watch Browns games and support Shedeur Sanders. They don't believe that we came from Colorado or Jackson State and we have many players that we support, like Jimmy Horn Jr., LaJohntay Wester, Shiloh, Cameron Silver Craig, Travis Hunter, and BJ Green, Xavier Weaver, Derek McClendon. List goes on, right? The list goes on. Shiloh, just in case I didn't say his name. So we're watching all of these guys. And I was asked, when people started becoming familiar with my podcast, people would ask me, what's my favorite team? And I say I don't have one. I have favorite players. I'm standing right here in a Bengals sweatshirt right now, right? Y'all know I have Dallas. Y'all know I have Vegas merch. If you've been following the channel long enough, you know I have the Texans. You know I have, the Falcons, right? So, matter of fact, just looking at my Falcons jacket a minute ago. So, in college, I pretty much rep Colorado. But in the NFL, it's where the players go, where they were drafted to, who they play for. And even before that, the quarterbacks. I follow the quarterbacks. So knowing and kind of seeing what was going on and having more of a holistic view of what was happening around the league to Black quarterbacks, that's how we got on this topic. And that's how I came up with 17 of 32. Because in 2024, I knew, as well as a lot of other people, even though it wasn't discussed in the draft, that this 25 class would be the year that 17 of 32 would take place with the majority of the starting quarterbacks being Black. So we just looked at the chart that we had pre-draft and post-free agency. Now this is the post-draft chart. And as you can see, the dots represent what? I mean, I think it should be obvious that that's where the quarterbacks are. Now, there's also a red and a yellow. The red dot indicates it's the same size as the black one. These were supposed to be starters that are Black starting quarterbacks, but they got robbed. Basically, that's what it is. And I actually have a post that shows that it seems like there were only 3 quarterback competitions held, with the Saints, Spencer Rattler, and Anthony Richardson in the Colts, and Shedeur Sanders. Now, y'all saw how Shedeur Sanders' competition went. He actually won it outright 2 or 3 times, but it didn't matter. They kept him at the back of the depth chart. That's why you see a red dot over here for Cleveland. That's a stop. So they stopped Shedeur from becoming a starter. Then over here with the Colts, you see a stop because they just took Anthony Richardson's job from him and gave it to Daniel Jones. So that was a Black quarterback that started, and they just took his job. I've been doing research on Anthony Richardson. We'll probably talk about that more tomorrow. Looking at Anthony Richardson and Spencer Rattler to see, how they ended up where they were, drafting their positions, what's going on their teams, and looking for the similarities with Shedeur. So that's the 2 dots that are red. That stops. They stopped those 2. So instead of the numbers that they would have attributed to starting quarterbacks, they stopped it. They put a stop to it. So that's why it's red. And then we have what? We have yellow. There's 1 yellow dot. Why? Because I just said there's 3 competitions that took place. The other one was the Saints, and it's pending. Now, first on the depth chart is Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler also a 5th round pick. They love that 5th round pick for Black quarterbacks. And he emerged as the best quarterback on their roster. So instead of them just calling it and going with Spencer, they want to drag it out and try to find a way for Tyler Shaw to get it. So this yellow dot could turn Black with Spencer Rattler being a Black starting quarterback, or it could turn red because they stopped it, right? They stopped the best from becoming the starter in New Orleans. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think that people are beginning to see, if you step back outside of Shedeur, if you look around the league, a holistic view, you will see that what is happening to Shedeur is also happening to a few other people. And why? 17 to 32. So let's talk about the list right here. 17 to 32 over to your right, focusing on the starters. There are 15 Black starting quarterbacks right now, just like in the draft. 15. Cam Ward became 16 in the draft, but he's 15 now because Anthony Richardson just got jacked for his starting job. There's no other way to say it. It's just insane, right? The guy that Anthony Richardson had to compete with failed at another team, but he got the opportunity at $14 million, Daniel Jones, to come over from Minnesota. Instead of competing with J.J. McCarthy for his starting job, they put Daniel Jones, who failed in New York miserably, behind Anthony Richardson and basically just took Anthony Richardson's job. Because that's what they wanted to do. Because if Anthony Richardson would still be the starter, it would be 16. So we have 15 starters, and you see Chicago, Green Bay. Over here, we have that's Lamar Jackson and Baltimore. Now, if you notice, you have, I think that's I keep looking at that at the top, the NFC East at the top. So you have New York, Philadelphia, Washington, and Dallas, right? And then it moves over and you have who is that at the top? Hold on, I can't see who that is. Oh, it looked like the Patriots, but I don't think that's what it is. And then you don't have as many. There's one division that's just stacked, right? Stacked with starters. And then when you move over, it could be 3 out of 4, right? Where the Saints are. If Spencer Rattler is confirmed the starter. He's currently the starter on the depth chart, but this little competition that, again, only black quarterbacks had to go through, and they took one from each of the last few years. Anthony Richardson from 23, Shedeur from 25, and Rattler from 24. So 23, 24, and 25. They took one quarterback from each of those years and made them compete. Because why? For the last few years, 3 quarterbacks have been drafted in the first round. That has been the trend. That's why the numbers are at the tipping point with Shedeur going to the Browns at 17. So over here on the far end, if you notice, there's only one black quarterback in this division. It was Geno Smith, but they moved him to Vegas. So really, it's just Kyler Murray, right? So he's kind of over there, and none of these other teams have black quarterbacks. Then you come down here, and then you see Lamar, and then you go over where Josh Allen is, and it's really kind of just one, right? So if you notice, they're all concentrated in the NFC. I don't know why that is. And there's not as many down here. I mean, there could have been, but the way the numbers were manipulated, and this is what we mean by musical chairs. So people talk about where Shedeur could go. You're going to see in a minute, not a lot of places. So you have the Jets over here with Justin Fields. They already trying to boot him out his spot, saying he's not going to be able to resurrect the Jets. They just got a brand new black quarterback. And Justin Fields was treated miserably in Chicago. He went to Pittsburgh, and I think he got injured, and he saw Mike Tomlin was losing his voice and his power, so he bounced to the Jets. So they have an interesting scenario. You'll see it on the next chart. And then we move over here to the Texans and the Tennessee Titans. So we had last season 2 black quarterbacks, but now they booting Anthony Richardson out. So this is another division that could have gone 3 black quarterbacks to 1, meaning Trevor Lawrence, the only white quarterback in this division. But now that they done boot Anthony Richardson out of his job and put a stop there, it's back to 2. And then you go over here to the far right, and you have the Kansas City Chiefs with Pat Mahomes. And then you have Geno Smith, who moved from the north to the AFC, right? So that's kind of like to give you a sense of what's going on. Now, it's painfully obvious that they put the best quarterbacks in one division. And what's starting to become very obvious, aside from the collusion cases, aside from the collusion in the draft, is the NFL is not competing. There's no competing going on here. They are colluding for talent, and they're colluding on where the talent goes. You're not supposed to do that in business. You're supposed to just let the free market go. And this is a competitive league. No, they are carefully choosing where people go. So you'll see again when I get ready to flip to this next chart, who's who and where everybody is and why it matters. Okay, so this is the second chart. Now notice it has a lot of color. It does, doesn't it? This is the 17 to 32. This is the threat to the NFL when it comes to who the starters are. It will explain why the draft went the way it went. So if you notice, I got a few more colors, right? I still have black representing the starters, right? I still have the red representing who was supposed to be a starter. Either they stopped it by taking their job away, Anthony Richardson, or blocking Shedeur Sanders, right? So see, Shedeur Sanders is in company with Anthony Richardson and Spencer Rattler, hence the red and the yellow. But come over here to the left. It said paired, and it's a gray circle, and I put it next to the black one. Now, that's not anything about race. That represents a black quarterback, yes, but nothing about their ethnicity. It's just another way for you to see how many black quarterbacks are paired together on teams. Do you see this? So we have 12 pairs of black quarterbacks, which means 27 black quarterbacks are stacked together on the same team. Look at the same division. That's the NFC East, I believe, with New York, Philly, Washington, and Dallas. They went from just having starters that are black to guys on the depth chart that are also black, whether it's the 2, the 3, or the 4. They not up there by themselves. Do you think it's a coincidence that on all of this chart, that this division right here is the one division that everybody stacked up together, that all of the best black quarterbacks are? No. This is how you know they're not competing. They're colluding. I mean, somebody could say, well, maybe they're competing and the teams just want to get the best person because, Washington got Jaden Daniels and then Philly got, so maybe the other team just wanted to get a really good guy too. So is it a coincidence that they all stacked together? So conversely, is it a coincidence that there are certain teams with no colors in the box? Minnesota, where Daniel Jones just left from. Also, what's his name? Sam Darnold departed ways and booted, I guess, Geno Smith out. Then look over here, the Rams, nobody. San Francisco, nobody. You see, these are not coincidences. Denver Broncos. We talked about the Denver Broncos. Not only are they mentioned in the lawsuit for racial discrimination, and Brian Flores' lawsuit, they are also the team that had a black quarterback in 1968 named Marlon Briscoe, who was successful with them. And they told him point blank, period, we don't want you to be our quarterback. What is it Stefanski said about Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur? Well, we're just more comfortable with Dylan. That is no different than what Briscoe was told by the Denver Broncos. So it shouldn't be a surprise that if you look at their quarterbacks, there are none that are black, not one. They're in a racial discrimination lawsuit that's active. So it shows you that the teams that don't have any, it's not a coincidence. Now, Pittsburgh had 2 last year, but they got theirs taken away. They had theirs taken away. Russ is up here now. So when we're talking about New York and Jackson Dart, right? And they didn't want to get Shedeur. They ended up with Jackson Dart. But before that, they ended up with Russ. And he has a parent. Who is that? Jameis Winston, who was just where? In Cleveland. Russ interviewed with Cleveland. They didn't want him. I don't know why not, but they okay with Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel. So none of this is a coincidence. This is strategic. So when you talk about where it is Shedeur can go, it's not going to be any of these teams with the white boxes. Not a one, and definitely not Denver. Not a coincidence. It's the Rams and San Francisco. It's not a coincidence that Minnesota, because they took 2 white quarterbacks and spread them out somewhere else to block other people from going there. This is not about competition. This is what I said earlier. It feels like a power struggle. And now I see why. So let's go on to another color circle. So we have solo depth guys. They're black, right? So I have 6 guys that are on a team, but they don't have a black starter. They just over there by themselves. That's the Bengals, Desmond Ridder. And then we have, I think that's the Patriots. And then I have, who else is it? At the top, I think I have Tampa Bay because Teddy Bridgewater's up there. And Seahawks, that's Jalen Milroe. He should have been a starter, but they stopped that. And then the Lions. The Lions have a competition. They have the guy, Henry Herndon from Tennessee competing with somebody else. He was the 2. Now he competing with the 3 to determine who's going to be the 2. See, all the black quarterbacks in the competition. I'm looking for a competition with 2 white quarterbacks. I want to see 2 white quarterbacks with these white boxes. I want to see J.J. McCarthy compete for his job because he hasn't proven anything, right? Only the black quarterbacks have to be competing. This is racist. They better find a competition with some white people in it. And it better be one of these teams up here. Well, it's all white quarterbacks. So they get to be comfortable and cushy. I don't see anybody in a competition with just the white box. And it's not a coincidence that there are no black people there. So then there's another color, right? So then I have another circle, again, just to denote black, but we just black. And I just got to find different colors to put in it where like it's gray, etc. So you could see the difference, right? So over here, I have 2 guys whose one, their mother is black. And she's black and German, but I think he grew up with more of his Samoan culture. So I didn't know if he wanted to be black or not. But I guess what though? The NFL think he black because he over there with somebody else that's black. Because if they thought he was white, he'd be up here in these white boxes. He is not. So it's him and another guy, Martinez. So DJ from Florida, Aguilue, I don't know his last name. His mother is black and German, and clearly the NFL sees that he's black. And then over here with the Jets, Adrian Martinez, turns out he's black, white, and Hispanic. Again, they think he's black, hence he's with all these black people. So here's what's starting to happen. As we exhaust the pairings, we get into the triplets down here. We get into the triplets. So the Jets have a black quarterback. They have a black starter in Justin Fields. Tyrod Taylor is a QB2. And then Adrian Martinez is the QB3. That's next. So rather than fill in any of these white boxes, they want to start with they're going to go from the parents to the triplets. So now you can see what stands out like a sore thumb. The red boxes, the red circles, Shedeur Sanders over here with Cleveland, and who else? Anthony Richardson. His red circle is inside of a black dot because they took his job. That's why I put it like that. They jacked him for his job. And then over here, Shedeur is paired up with who? Deshaun Watson. Or maybe it's, I should put 2 more circles because, hell, they are triplet now. You have Huntley, Deshaun Watson, and Shedeur. So technically, I can put Huntley on there. And if you notice, you got 2 sets of triplets right by each other. But none of them the starter in Cleveland. But in New York, they are because why? They have a black head coach. It's not hard to see what's happening here. It's not hard to see why Adam Schefter today reported about some competitions. Now, he didn't talk about the competition in Detroit. I was just doing research and found that one, right? So it said, while the Colts and the Browns have named starting QBs, the Saints are not yet ready to do so, even though there's a drastic difference between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shaw. But see, Spencer Rattler is a 5th round QB. Why let a 5th round QB like Spencer and Shedeur compete for the starter, but when they win, you don't want to give it to them? So basically, you just created some fake competition to justify some foolishness. But it's not working because all one person has to do is just look at the damn chart to see y'all are not competing. You're strategically placing talent. It's that the Saints are not ready to make a decision. The head coach, Kellen Moore, told reporters the competition and evaluation process will go through this week. Now, I don't know what they're hoping to do other than probably get Kenny Pickett and going to put Kenny Pickett in front of Spencer Rattler and say, well, you a 5th round QB, so we're not going to be able to do it. He is elite. I've been reading draft profiles. He is elite. Just like they want to say Shedeur is not elite. To this very moment on NFL site, it says Shedeur is a 1st round projected QB. They talk about Shedeur and people are screaming and hollering and losing their brains in Cleveland, talking about he's the most popular QB in the draft. I'm like, excuse me. He's the best quarterback in the class. See, when they start talking about his popularity, Like, he's popular. He's not just popular. He's the best quarterback that came out in the draft. And you can see when you're looking at this chart why it is that they going through all of this damn trouble to just really hold people back. I have two dots. You let either one of them turn black, and guess what's going to happen? You let Spencer Rattler go, and he going to be 16. And you let Mother Nature take place in Cleveland or just the day-to-day, and Shedeur going to be 17. And that means that they went through that every damn thing they went through in the draft to hold him back failed. That's what that means. That means you did all of that in the draft for nothing. This is why they are holding Shedeur so far back. It also explains why Kellen Moore does not want to make a decision on Spencer Rattler being the guy, because it'll be 16. So that means it takes an injury for 17 to occur on anybody's team. Hell, Anthony Richardson lost his job, but Daniel Jones get hurt. Guess who's going to be the starter again? Anthony Richardson. So they're doing everything they can to strategically place quarterbacks. So for people that say Shedeur Sanders should go to another team, which one of them is going to be? The Falcons? They already got two black quarterbacks. They could turn into triplets, because that's the next thing to happen. We going from pairings to triplets. Anything to keep these numbers of black quarterbacks low. And for the guys that are black, maybe, and no disrespect, the league knows exactly what they are. That's why they're on the team with other black people. They could easily be on one of these teams with these white boxes. All these quarterbacks are white. And I don't think anybody's competing. I haven't seen any competition taking place with any of the quarterbacks in white boxes. The competitions are taking place on teams to try to make sure they don't move forward with 17. Hell, they probably don't want 16, because somebody going to get hurt. And this is where they are this year. So when you look at who's coming out next year and they're trying to manipulate it with the top 4 being white, well, first of all, somebody going to lose their job. And I don't know if it's people in the white boxes or it's the people with all the colors. But somebody going to lose their job. And it could be the triplets down here. That's when they're going to start busting up the triplets. And make sure and understand, those guys coming out of school, one is going to the Saints, right? So you already know they over there mulling everything, but can we win games? Well, should we make Spencer Rattler the starter? Because Nussmeier's son is coming out next year, and we got Spencer on a contract for 4 years. So maybe we shouldn't have him play this year. Maybe we'll lose this year so we can make sure. That's what they're doing. They're not trying to win games. Their fans need to understand this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Black quarterbacks are competing for their spots so they don't emerge to 17 to 32. Anthony Richardson and Shedeur Sanders and Spencer Rattler and Herndon, I think, up in Detroit. They're not even competing for the starting job. They got Herndon competing for the 2 or the 3. Do you really need a competition for the 2 or the 3? I mean, really. Jared Goff is your starter, right? Okay. Teddy Bridgewater had to come in and do well there. Why they didn't keep him on the roster? Because they don't want him to replace 2% battery life for Jared Goff. So I want you to visualize how crowded it is for black quarterbacks. I want you to understand why there are teams with absolutely no black quarterbacks. So when you talk about where Shedeur can go, I want you to eliminate the one with the white boxes. Therefore, it's not going to be the Rams. It's not going to be the 49ers. It's not going to be Minnesota. It's not going to be Pittsburgh. It's not going to be Denver. And it's not going to be Jacksonville Jaguars or the Miami Dolphins. Tua is not black. So, we're just not going to do that. And the Buffalo Bills. So you take all of them off the table. He got to go to one of these right here with all these colors in the box. He got to go be a triplet. Hell, he already a triplet. So maybe he can go from one triplet to another one. Maybe he can make a triplet up in Arizona because it's 2 up there. So he'll be 3. Or maybe he can go over here with Geno Smith to the Raiders. But they got Cam Miller, and they don't like they backup. I think they're trying to move their second string to fourth or out the door, but they have an opening for a fourth string. So understand when they trade Shedeur, they're gonna try to keep him pigeonholed on fourth string. So he can only go to the teams that have a fourth string opening. I do believe that is Vegas and Miami, I think. But then, I don't think that's gonna happen in Miami. But maybe Vegas, because Geno Smith over there, so he could just go pair up with him. That's how they're making these decisions. These people are not competing. And you would think, just stop drafting black quarterbacks. Because if this is what you want to do, kill their careers, I mean, they could just go somewhere and start their own team. That's what they don't want. They don't want them to start their own league. So they keep drafting them and they're trying to figure out what to do with them. But Cleveland is catching on, right? So Cleveland is upset, but they need to do more than be upset. You can't just yell and scream and cuss and say you upset. You're going to need to hold this team accountable. People have reached out to me on IG and asked me if they're not for Cleveland, can they complain about the Browns? Yes. They have phone numbers. They have, you like to write. They got addresses. You go to their website. It starts there. They got a phone number. They're going to probably make you leave a message. It's a lot of things that can be done. But the most important thing is to not show up. That's one. Just leave the stadium empty. If the Carolina Panthers fans can do it, then the Browns fans can do it. I mean, at this point, this is your team. These people are really like trying to move out of town because they don't want to enrich the city of Cleveland, but they want to take the name Cleveland Browns with them. Something got to give here. Something has to give. So, yes, you don't have to be in Cleveland to complain about the Browns. But definitely start on their website. So they upset. That's good. But it's not good enough if you don't do anything. Staying home, talking to your neighbors, the guys you go to the games with, the families y'all all go to the games together. Don't go. Just go to each other's houses and just watch it on one device. You're going to have to hit them in the pockets. And honestly, the biggest impact is to leave that damn stadium empty. The one they don't want to play in anyway. So, that's what it is.